So with that, I do officially call to order this meeting of the 73rd session of the Texas A&M University Student Body Senate on September 30th, 2020 at 7:03 p.m. We'll begin with a period of opening roll call led by Pro Tem Spur.
Howdy, Senate. Pro Tempore Spur. We are going to go ahead and start attendance. That form will close at 7:10 p.m. And it is now open.
All right, and as Pro Tempore Spur said, that form will stay open for senators. Again, just to remind everyone who's in the meeting, that form is only for senators, so you do not have to worry about filling that out if you are not currently serving as a senator. With that, though, we will move into a period of invocation and pledges of allegiance led by special guest Emily Pyle on behalf of Christian business leaders.
If you're comfortable, you may bow your head. Dear Lord, thank you so much for today and for this opportunity to be here with this group and lift up thanks to you. I thank you for Texas A&M, God, and the wide variety of people that you have brought here and given us all the opportunity to be surrounded by. You are good and you deeply value each and every person here. Tonight, God, I want to lift up all of the senators. I pray there would be a unified spirit among them. I pray that this meeting would be fruitful and that even with any disagreements, Lord, that they would remember they are all on the same team, that they are working with each other, not against. I pray they would not be anxious to speak up, but I pray they would feel a sense of calm. I pray you would give them the wisdom to collaborate with each other, and I pray that they would be open to and aware of any new ideas that may help improve the quality and climate of our campus. Once again, I just thank you for these students, and I thank you for who you are. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Now, please join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States flag, followed by the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, one nation under God, and to the republic for which it stands, one indivisible with liberty and justice for all. Now for the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Emily, thank you so much for joining us and being with us. It's always a pleasure to have our guests. Our guests for the invocation and pledges are found by an extensive process led by Chair Ahmed, and so it's always cool to have such a diverse backgrounds represented on those invocations and pledges. With that, though, we will now move into a period of the reading of the mission statement and Aggie Honor Code led by our longest-serving senator, Senator Wood.
Howdy, Ags. The Texas A&M Student Senate mission statement says, the Texas A&M University Student Senate represents all students in order to enhance the Texas A&M experience within our university and communities through research, legislation, and advocacy in accordance with the core values of our institution. The Aggie Honor Code states, an Aggie does not lie, cheat, or steal, tolerate those who do. Woo, thanks, and gig 'em.
Thank you, Senator Wood. We'll now move into a period of the singing of the Spirit of Aggieland, led by Operations Director Marvitt.
Howdy, guys. Let me just share my screen real quick.
Thank you, Director Marbut. With that, we'll now move into a period of open forum led by Speaker Pro Tempore Spur. Pro Tempore Spur, do we have anyone signed up for open forum?
We have no speakers for open forum tonight.
That will conclude our period of open forum, and we'll move into a period of the approval of the 9/16/20 meeting minutes. We'll move by general consent to approve these meeting minutes. Do I see any objections to general consent? Seeing none, those minutes have been approved, and we'll now move into a period of unfinished business, beginning with the second reading of SB 7303, the SGA budget, fiscal year 21 bill. Chair Teague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And if you wouldn't mind, could you also unmute Executive Vice President Coote, please?
You do have the floor.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Howdy, Senate. Chair Teague, Finance. This, as Speaker Matthews said, this is the second reading of the finance bill. It will be read line by line, so just buckle up. I'll begin and switch off with Vice President Coote. SGA budget fiscal year 21 bill. This is a bill allocating fee monies throughout the Student Government Association. Whereas one, the Texas A&M Student Government Association is charged with the distribution of $50,000 of student fee money within the committees, commissions, organization, and branches that comprise the Student Government Association.
Each entity requesting funding was allowed to present their vision for the coming year, their past use of funds, the extent of their future fiscal year plans, and the costs entailed.
Let it be further enacted that the following recommended line item totals be granted to the 12th Canned Food Pantry from the 2020-2021 SGA allocation account. $30 for toner, paper, printing, and copying, $100 for office supplies, tools, garbage bags, and gloves, $45 for envelopes, $295 for ANCO insurance, $400 for bags. As well as $150 for yard signs, etc., to promote presence and provide information, $100 for banners and flyers, $100 for promotional items to increase notoriety and widen client base, $200 for possible future program events related to food insecurity, and $100 for fall and spring MSC open house. That brings us to a total of $1,520 total going to the 12th Canned Food Pantry.
Let it be that the following recommended bills be granted to the Agriculture Committee from the 2020-2021 SGA allocation account. $70 for registration fees for both semesters, $300 for storage of conference items such as water coolers, medicine, extra shirts, for a total of $370 for Aggie Recruitment Committee, and
That the following recommended line item totals be granted to alternative spring break from the 2020-2021 SGA allocation account of $22 for stamps, $84 for water bottles, first aid kits, folders, and bug spray, $10 for thank you notes, $134.40 for student insurance for trips, $75 for 50 stickers to hand out, $60 for flyers, $200 for banquet food, and $100 to pay for 2 semesters of the MSc open house. That brings us to a total of $685.40.
Let it be further that the following recommended line item totals be granted to the from the 2020-2021 SGA allocation account: $1,500 for stamps and shipping, $2,000 for flyer/donor information, $4,449 for masks in an amount not to exceed 75% of total registrants, $500 for social media software, $500 for digital flyers via Texas A&M's TVs, messaging on video boards, etc., for a total of $8,949. And
let it be further enacted 5 that the following recommended line item totals be granted to the TAMU Career Closet from the 2020-2021 SG allocation account for $100 for terms of agreement and special vouchers, $50 for spring 2021 open house, and $300 for extra storage for donations. Gives us a grand total of $450 going to the Career Closet.
let it be further enacted that the following recommended line item totals be granted to Carpool from the 2020-2021 SGA allocation account for $350 for logs, receipts, PR, and recruitment flyers, $100 for lime green paper, risk management materials, $6,075 for facility insurance and operations insurance, $3,400 for operations fuel/phone/PPE, for a total of $9,925. And
that the following recommended line items be granted to CSGA, the Council on Student Government Associations, from the 2020-2021 SGA allocation account: $350 for postage, $150 for ink and paper, $400 for an online platform to host conference membership education, $150 for hand sanitizer, $1,000 for MSc room rentals for committees to work in during conference, $1,000 for food and snacks for the committee at the conference, $20 to promote CSGA to students, and $150 to promote CSGA materials for the conference. That brings us to a total of $3,220 for CSGA.
let it be further from the 2020-2021 SGA allocation account: $100 for advertising, $100 for the SGA golf tournament and profit shares, etc., for a total of $200. And
let it be further enacted that the following recommended line item totals be granted to the Sga Diversity Commission from the 2020-2021 SGA allocation account: $50 for meeting agendas and other printing, $50 for supplies for Diversity Commission and Disability Subcommission, $50 for letterhead, notes, and cards, $200 for social media postings around campus, $100 for new banners and flyers for events, $80 for Disability Subcommission travel, and $250 for food for events and programming. That brings us to a grand total of $780 going to the Diversity Commission.
let it be further recommended that the following recommended line item totals be granted to the Election Commission from the 2020-2021 SGA allocation account: $364.95 for a web domain through transition to WordPress, $75 allow informative posts to reach larger audience, $341.50 for student body president debate and yellow leader panel, for a total of $763.45. And
let it be further enacted 11 that the following recommended line item totals be granted to the SGA Executive Cabinet from the 2020-2021 SGA allocation account for $175 for Gig the Vote promotional material, $2,380 for the SGA Collaborative Project, the Trad Center Initiative, and $50 for the MSc Open House for next year. That brings us to a grand total of $2,605 for the Executive Cabinet.
Let it be further enacted resolved that the following recommended line item totals be granted to fish aids from the 2020-2021 SGA allocation account. $100 freshmen not in Bryan College Station area, $50 informational flyers, $300 for PPE, $50 for thank you notes, $200 for custodian banquet, $1,500 for custodian banquet, for a total of $2,200. And
let it be further enacted 13 that the following recommended line item totals be granted to the David Gilbert Leadership Conference from the 2020-2021 SGA allocation account for $1,500 for a virtual conference. And
let it be further enacted 14 that the following recommended line item totals be granted to the Sga Legislative Relations Commission from the 2020-2021 Sga allocation account. $30 for mailing fundraising letters, $120 letterhead for fundraising, business cards, $850 for traveling to Austin to advocate for Texas A&M students, $50 for an Austin lunch if needed for legislative meeting, for a total of $1,050. And
let it be further enacted 15 that the following recommended line item totals be granted to the Aggie Muster Committee from the 2020-2021 SGA allocation account. $232 for postage mailouts and PO box renewal, $300 for toner and paper reports, letters, copying charges, etc. $570 for exec and committee binders, as well as office supplies, $379 for letterhead, thank you notes, and miscellaneous stationery. $500 for awareness flyers, $750 for promotional items, $160 for reflections display backboards, $445 for speaker gifts, $310 for candles, flowers, and decorations, $50 for spring open house for recruitment, $150 for storage of radios and tech, brings us to a total amount of $3,846 for the Aggie Muster Committee.
let it be further enacted that the following recommended line item totals be granted to Aggie Replant from the 2020-2021 SGA allocation amount. $10 for printing documents for risk mitigation binders, $6,000 for trees, 300 times $20, $225, 2 events, 500 volunteers at 45 cents per person, $25 for flyers for spring recruitment, $200 for buttons, stickers, shirts / masks for volunteers, $250 transportation for spring planting event, $300 food for volunteers for replant days and events, $100 fall and spring MSC open house, $100 for 2 thermometers, hand sanitizer, and cleaning supplies, for a total of $7,210. And
let it be further enacted that the following recommended line item totals be granted to the SGA Student Senate from the 2020-2021 SGA allocation account for $110 for 200 stamps, $70 for mail envelopes, binders, and cleaning products, $350 for letterhead and thank you cards, and $400 for dispensers for the period project subcommittee. That gives us a total of $930 total for the Student Senate.
let it be further enacted that the following recommended line item totals be granted to Traditions Council from the 2020-2021 SGA allocation account. $100 for mailing thank you / donation letters, $200 for copy corner expenses, $500 for letterheads, silver taps letters, $400 bonfire remembrance recruitment flyers, etc. $600 for promotion for Traditions Week and bonfire remembrance, $700 for stage, speaker, chairs for bonfire remembrance, $400 for risk management, $20 for open house 1 semester fee, $300 for 2 lockers, $300 silver taps letter table enhancement, for a total of $3,520. And
finally, let it be further enacted 18 that the following recommended line item totals be granted to the Judicial Court from the 2020-2021 SGA allocation account. $81 for name placards for 9 justices, $100 for guest speaker thank you baskets at $50 a basket, as well as $95 for dry cleaning for 9 justice robes, for a total of $276 for the SGA Judicial Court. Mr. Speaker, we now yield the remainder of our time to questions.
Prisoners have yielded to questions. Are there any questions at this time? Seeing none, that will conclude our period of question. Thank you to the presenters. We'll now move into a period of debate, beginning with debate against. Do I see any debate against? Seeing none, I will now go into a period of debate for. Do I see any debate for this piece of legislation? Seeing none, that will conclude our period of debate for, and will conclude our overall period of debate. We will now move into a period of voting led by Speaker Pro Tempore Spur, as well as Ops Director Marvitt.
Howdy, Senate. Speaker Pro Tempore Spur. We are going to go into a period of voting. It is now 7:24, and we will have voting open until 7:27. The voting link is in the chat. Howdy, Senate. Speaker Pro Tempore Spur. It is now 7:27, so we are cutting off that vote. We had 46 in favor with 1 abstention.
So that bill does indeed pass, SB 7303, the SGA budget fiscal year 21. That will conclude our period of unfinished business. And I do want to recognize the motion from Senator Rogers.
Joseph Rogers, Off-Campus Caucus. I move to deviate from the agenda for a special presentation from the Core Values Subcommittee.
Do I see any seconds? Seeing multiple seconds, we will move by general consent to deviate from the agenda to recognize a special presentation from the Core Values Subcommittee, who will be presenting an award to our recipient that we voted on at the last meeting. Do I see any objections to this deviation? Seeing none, that will be the order. Senator Rogers, you do have the floor in presentation.
Thank you, Speaker McHugh. Joseph Rogers of Campus Caucus. Howdy, Senate. Thank you so much for once again confirming the Core Values Subcommittee nominee last meeting. Here I have Abby Wimmer. She's just going to say a few remarks about her feelings about receiving this award and integrity. I think it's so important that we recognize Aggies that uphold the core values since it is something that is so key that unites us. So Abby, please take it away.
Howdy, like Joseph said, my name is Abby Wimmer. I am a junior biomedical science major. It was a very sweet surprise to receive an email saying I was nominated and I'd be receiving this award. Integrity is such an important core value that I try to live by always doing the right thing. It could be simple things like in group meetings reminding people to be respectful or helping a fellow lost Aggie. In life, we are given many opportunities to make decisions. We can choose to make the right one, or we can choose to make wrong ones. But it is our duties as Aggies to stick true to our morals and to make the right decisions to represent our university well. It's a great honor to receive this award. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abby. With that said, Abby will receive a framed certificate from the Core Values Subcommittee. We will give this certificate off screen to Abby while adhering to all COVID-19 safety procedures to uphold public health. But with that said, I look forward to presenting our next nominee next month. I yield my time back to the floor.
Floor has been yielded to. Thank you so much, Senator Rogers, and congratulations, Abby. It's always an honor to see such incredible people receive this award each month here in the Senate. With that, we will now resume our agenda and go into a period of new business, beginning with the reading of SR 7322, the Everybody Gains Resolution. I believe Chair Syed, you are the primary author.
Chair Syed, Student Services. Could you, Mr. Speaker, could you also unmute Erica Pauls, who's the other author?
Okay, got you.
All right, howdy Senate. A couple months ago, I brought up this idea after hearing some feedback from lots of students, and so of renaming a bus route to Matthew Gaines. I brought this up with Transportation Services Advisory Committee, who have voted to move forward and look into this idea. What that involves is contacting several different student orgs, including Student Government Association. So this resolution was created to help show our support or see where our Student Senate lies on this idea. So to start, Erica.
Yes. All Texas A&M bus routes are named after certain facets of Texas A&M through its history, culture, and tradition. And
whereas Senator Matthew Gaines was one of the first African-American state senators and was instrumental in the 12th Texas Legislature's passage of Senate Bill 276, which created the Agricultural and Mechanical College of Texas under the Land Grant 1886, also known as the Morrill Act, and
Senator Matthew Gaines passionately supported the forward movement for public education that established the first public school system for all Texans.
And whereas for the work of Senator Matthew Gaines, along with those who served on the 12th legislature, was integral to the founding of Texas A&M University, and
his work should be honored and recognized as a part of Texas A&M's history or culture, history, and further traditions.
And whereas 6, along with the work of Matthew Gaines Society with the commemoration of an on-campus statue, the naming of a bus stop would not only be fitting for a campus figure like Senator Matthew Gaines, but also a great way to increase the outreach among the student body. And
Senator Matthew Gaines and the Matthew Gaines Society embodies the spirit of Aggie Lands through the Society's mission of proving that every Aggie, no matter what race, ethnicity, gender, religion, or background, can make a lasting impact on our campus. And
Whereas 8, the Texas A&M Student Senate aims to raise awareness of Senator Matthew Gaines and his contribution to Texas A&M University.
Therefore, let it be resolved, the Texas A&M Student Senate recommends that the Transportation Services Advisory Committee moves to rename Bus 36, currently named Cotton Bowl, to Matthew Gaines in spring or fall of 2021. And
let it be further enacted that the Texas A&M Student Senate congratulates the Matthew Gaines Society, formerly known as the Matthew Gaines Initiative, in reaching their goal to fund a statue of Senator Matthew Gaines.
oh, that's it.
I believe we have to do the last one too.
Oh, a copy of the bill will be sent to the Matthew Gaines Society, President Michael K. Young, Transportation Services Advisory Committee, Traditions Council, Graduate and Professional Student Government, Dr. Daniel Pugh, the Vice President of Student Affairs, Sarah Hamilton, the Doctoral Assistant for the Vice President of Student Affairs, Dr. Jerry R. Strauer, Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer, Peter Lang, Associate Vice President for Transportation Services, and the battalion.
And we yield the floor to questions.
Prisoners have yielded to questions. Are there any questions for the prisoners at this time? Senator Wood.
So first off, Senator Wood, College of Engineering. Route 36 is a football game route. So would you not think that having Cotton Bowl as the name of it would be fitting for a football game route?
Yeah, so one thing that we talked about is how when we talk to people at the Transportation Services, all of the bus routes are named after current facets of Texas A&M's history, culture, and traditions. Cotton Bowl isn't something that's really intertwined with A&M's current culture right now. It used to be back in I think the early years ago, but it's not as intertwined as it is now as it was then. And if Fawaz, you want to say anything on that?
Absolutely. Cotton Bowl is still a bus route that operates not just during the football period, unless you were referring it to be related to football. But we actually, when we proposed this idea to Transportation Services Advisory Committee, an exact route name was not brought up, but that was one of the names that they suggested after discussing it.
Just a follow-up.
Granted.
I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but seeing that it is a football route, I feel like we should maybe keep it that football. So I guess Cotton Bowl, Texas A&M can still very go. We went in 2013, still have the opportunity to go. So would you be open to renaming a different bus route? For instance, maybe bus route 22, which is named Excel. Have no idea what that means. Or bus route 25, which is named Centerpole, which I'm sure the majority of student body do not know what Centerpole means.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Centerpole is. I do know Excel is like a fish camp for specifically Black and African American students. That was something that was one of the first traditions that was actually created at Texas A&M. So I know that's something that's still alive and well in the Texas A&M culture. The Cotton Bowl was what they referred to us to change the name, just because it is very much not as intertwined. And I'm looking in the comments, it says Centerpole is related to bonfire, so that might have been the reason why they didn't bring that one up to us.
And as a reminder, please leave any debate or comments into the chat. I do know it's tempting to correct information. Just as on the Senate floor, we aren't able to talk out of turn. We aren't able to talk out of turn here either. With that, Chair Teague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. Ms. Pauls, I guess my question is really for you as someone affiliated with the Matthew Gaines Society. As you said in the resolution, the statue has been fully funded, yes?
Yes.
Permission to follow up, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. So what's the timeline looking like for the statue being erected, being put on campus where somebody can walk by it? What's that looking like?
Yeah, for sure. So we just actually got our artist submission process. We've actually narrowed it down to 3 artists. So we're giving them funds to send a mock-up, and I believe they'll be done with that around November, and we'll be able to pick those 3 artists then. Hopefully, we plan to have the statue up by April, May, depending on the artist timeline, but it will be up late spring 2021.
And my last question, and I think it really goes to the whole point of this is,
And I do believe the gentleman is out of order. I ask permission to follow up.
permission to follow up a third time.
Since you're out of order, if you want to go ahead and hop back in at the end of the line, I would like to represent to call on Senator Wood.
Senator Wood, College Engineering. I'm not opposed, but I guess I don't see the full need of having a statue and a bus route named for one specific person when there were multiple people.
And is there a question there, Senator?
Yes, it's coming. Permission to preface.
Briefly.
Yeah. So I guess I just don't fully see the need for a statue and a bus route. Specifically a bus route being so large at A&M. Particularly, you'll have like 56,000 people riding bus routes, and to include game day. So I guess my question is, why just him versus maybe another senator that voted for the Morale Act? Just because I don't see what he independently did for Texas A&M and strictly Texas A&M.
Right, for sure. So Matthew Gaines was very integral to the part of the passing of the Morale Act. And yes, there were several other, specifically African Americans that were very integral in that passing. Unfortunately, back in the day, back in that time, African Americans weren't really covered by journalism and weren't really covered by newspaper. So Matthew Gaines is really one of, I believe, like the only names that we really have credible sources tied to. So that's why even when we reference to Matthew Gaines, we always say Matthew Gaines and the members of the 12th legislature, because, he wasn't just him. You're absolutely correct on that, that it wasn't just him. He was looked at as the leader. And unfortunately, like I said, journalism did not cover Black people and African Americans. So he's the only one that we really have credible ties to the university as well.
Also for, to add on to that, also for why him, when we have
finish up with the last sentence or two, as that is time.
We have also noticed a push from administration to help recognize Matthew Gaines, from Chancellor Sharp, President Young. And so this is just another way to help increase that.
And that is time on the question and answers period. And that will come to an end, and we will move into a period of debate, beginning with debate against. Do I see any debate against? Chair Oldag. You have the floor.
Howdy, Chair Oldag, Community Relations. This isn't, so I know it's not a question, and I'm not sure if it's just on my piece, but in whereas 2, I think there's a typo, the Land Grant College Act I have 186. I'm not sure if that's just me. I know there's like a rule on amendments if it's like grammatical errors or factually incorrect. I just wanted to bring that to y'all's attention, and I'm curious if that's just on the piece I'm looking at or if that's on everyone's. I don't know if an amendment needs to be made or not. I believe not, but I just wanted to bring that up. So thank you. I yield my time to the floor.
The floor has been yielded to, and so that will conclude the period of debate against. We'll move into a period of debate for. And do I see any debate for? Senator Wood, you have the floor.
Senator Wood, College Engineering, correct me if I'm wrong. But if this isn't debated for, then that'd be one-sided.
Right.
Or we go back to debate against. I'm debating for that we continue debate. I yield my time to the floor.
Floor has been yielded to you, and that will conclude that period of debate for. We'll now move back into a period of debate against. Chair Teague, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. I'd like to preface my remarks here by saying that I am not against recognizing the work of senators like Matthew Gaines. I certainly appreciate all that he did for our university, as well as the rest of the 12th legislature, and how forward-thinking they were that 150 years later, we're still reaping the benefits of their work. However, I don't see that he made enough of an impact on this university to justify having both a bus route and a statue on our campus. Again, great guy. I'm glad he has a statue. I was a proponent of him having a statue, but I just don't see why we have to, why we need both a bus route and a statue. I think either or would be sufficient to honor the man. I yield my time to Senator Wood.
Senator Wood, College Engineering. Howdy, I guess, since if we're talking in person. Kind of going off Chair Teague, I am on that vote. For that, I don't think that he needs a bus route. Maybe some other person that did a lot for Texas A&M. Major factor people like Rudder, he has a tower and a small statue in the core area, but no specific person has two credible things named after that person. If not, otherwise I will.
We'll have to go ahead and stop you if you want to finish up that last sentence, as that is time.
I will advocate for a different bus route, seeing that bus route 36 is not a correct bus route for that.
That will conclude the period of debate against, and we'll move back into a period of debate for. Do I see any debate for? Chair Syed, you have the floor.
Chair Syed, Student Services. Sorry, I meant to lower my hand.
Chair Ahmed, you have the floor.
Hello, howdy. One second, I'm having trouble with my camera. Sorry, y'all. Howdy, Chair.
I actually want to pause you for just 1 second to recognize the point of inquiry from Senator Marufo. Senator Marufo.
Okay. Senator Marufo, Liberal Arts Caucus. My point of inquiry is that if senators don't have their cameras on, can they still, do they still have speaking privileges on the floor, or no?
As the chief interpreter of the rules, I will deflect to Chair Hine.
Oh, Chair Hine, Rules and Regulations. If a senator does not have their camera on, we cannot enforce dress code, therefore they cannot speak.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Ahmed, I do believe you have the floor in debate against. Debate for, excuse me.
Howdy, Chair Ahmed, Diversity and Inclusion, Off-Campus Caucus. So I do want to encourage the Senate body to vote for this resolution, because as a member of the initiative, when we initially put out a survey out to see how many people actually knew about gains, I want to say that number was around 16%. And so part of creating that bus route is to increase that awareness. And I do know that the plan is that the statue goes up in the springtime, spring 21. But again, we don't know what the future holds. And even then, they might see that statue and still not know what he's done for this campus. So we are hoping that this bus route can increase that awareness and that name recognition of him. And I do think, I know there are some concerns about, the actual bus route that will be changed. I feel like that could, Chair Syed could maybe correct me if I'm wrong. I think that could be something that could be worked out with him, TSAC, or the transportation services. And with that, that's all I have to say, and I will yield my time to the floor.
The floor has been yielded to you, and that will conclude that period of debate 4, and we'll move back into the final round of debate, beginning with a period of debate against.
Chair side student services. Oh, sorry.
I believe your hand was up from the last round, if that's correct. We'll go ahead and lower that. And then Chair Syed, you do have the floor and debate against.
Chair side student services. I have a motion.
Go ahead.
I motion to amend whereas 2 for where it says active 186 to change it to 1886, just in case that's not a grammatical thing.
Yes, and we'll have the Ops Committee go ahead and screen share that as we make that change.
Hi, can you give me edit access so that I can edit this?
Yes, sorry about that. Almost there. Sorry about that. You should have it now.
So then Director Marvin, if you could also highlight the portion that we are amending. Perfect. So now we'll move into a period of debate on the amendment itself to change whereas 2 so that the number reads 1886 instead of 186. We'll begin with a period of debate against. And before we do that, though, if anyone had their hands raised for another purpose, go ahead and lower them. Right. Chair Teague, you do have the floor in debate against this amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. Again, I'll preface this by saying I'm not a history major, but if the 12th legislature was instrumental in creating the Agriculture and Mechanical College of Texas, they probably wouldn't have done so 10 years after we were established as a college in 1876.
And Chair Teague, I'll pause you here real quick to recognize the motion from Chair Syed.
Chair Syed, I'm so sorry. Today's been a long day. I realized right after I read it, it's supposed to be 1862. So can I motion to amend that right now?
If you have the floor in debate against. Okay. So that motion is out of order. Chair Teague, you do still have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe the correct date would be 1870, but perhaps Chair Syed or someone with a little bit more information on such an important date would know. Thank you. That's all I have.
And Chair Teague, you do still have the floor if you'd care to yield.
I yield back to the floor.
The floor has been yielded to, and that will conclude that period of debate against, and we'll move into a period of debate for. Do I see any debate for? Seeing Chair Syed, you have the floor.
Chair Syed, Student Services. I just wanted to clarify, I am in support of the Cotton Bowl bus route specifically because that is what Transportation Services Advisory Committee voted to pursue. And so they're kind of asking us for if that is okay. And this is our way of saying it.
Chair Syed, you do still have the floor.
I yield my.
I would like to recognize the point of order from Chair Teague.
Mr. Speaker, Chair Teague, Finance. Chair Syed's remarks were out of order since they aren't pertinent to the motion to amend that's on the floor.
Seeing as that is correct, the gentleman is out of order, and we will go ahead and conclude that period of debate 4, as Chair Syed did yield to the floor, and we'll now move back into a period of debate against, beginning with Senator Martin.
Senator Martin, Liberal Arts Caucus. Just one point about the Land Grant Act. The college was established under the Morrill Act of July 2nd, 1862. So if you would like to correct that, that would be the correct date on when the Morrill Act was put forward. I yield my time to the floor.
The floor has been yielded to, and I'll move back into a period of debate 4. And just as a reminder, after you're finished debating, if there's still time left in the debate, you can yield to another senator instead of going back and forth between rounds, just as a point of clarification. Do I see any debate 4? Chair Syed, you have the floor.
Chair Syed, Student Services, I'm for this resolution so that it's not one-sided, so I can go back and fix that amendment.
Do you yield the floor, sir?
Yes, I yield the floor.
The floor has been yielded to, and we'll now move back into a period of debate against. Chair Syed, you are recognized.
Chair Syed, Student Services, I motion to amend the amendment to say Act of 1862. I'm sorry about that.
Do I see any seconds? Seeing a second. Director Marbut, if you would please go ahead and correct that.
That is corrected.
Great. We'll now move into a period of debate on the amendment to the amendment, beginning with debate against. Do I see any debate against? Seeing none, I will now move into a period of debate 4. Do I see any debate for the second rank amendment? Seeing none, that will conclude our period of debate, and we will move into a period of voting on the second rank amendment. So again, we are just voting on to change the original amendment to the new number. So we'll go ahead and vote by raising of hands. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Lower your hands. All those opposed? Seeing none, that does pass. And the second rank amendment will be added to the first rank amendment. So that the first rank amendment now reads 1862. And we'll now return to debate on that amendment itself. Chair Syed, I do believe you have the floor in debate against.
Yield my time back to the floor.
The floor has been yielded to. We'll now move into a period of debate 4. Seeing no debate 4, that will conclude that final round of debate. And we'll now move into a period of voting on the first rank amendment, so that in whereas 2, I believe, the date should read 1862 instead of 186. We'll do this by voting by raising hands. All those in favor? Lower your hands. All those opposed? Lower your hands. And by a vote of 33 to 1, that amendment does pass. And whereas 2 shall now read 1862 instead of 186. And we will now return to debate on the piece of legislation as a whole. I believe, Chair Syed, you do still have the floor in debate against.
I yield my time back to the floor.
The floor has been yielded to you. We'll now move into a period of debate 4. Do I see any debate 4? Senator Lucas.
Senator Lucas, College of Education. I just really think that this piece of legislation is important, particularly the fact that a lot of students on campus weren't aware of who Matthew Gaines is. And I think it's important that we raise awareness to the student body as a whole. I also think it's important to note that the Cotton Bowl route is not a game route, so that would not, changing the name, I don't think would be as drastic as some of the other senators are insisting that it would be, because so many people would be on that bus route for game day. It's not even a game day route. I yield my time.
Have you yielded to the floor or to Senator Marufo?
I'm sorry, Senator Marufo.
Senator Marufo, you do have the floor.
Senator Marufo, Liberal Arts Caucus. Echoing what Senator Lucas said, I think it is very important that we create awareness on campus about who Matthew Gaines was. A lot of people don't know about the initiative. A lot of people don't know about the statue to be erected, but to the point of Rudder having his own plaza, his tower, then a statue, and also his own bus route. For good reason, Rudder did a lot of good for the school, and so did Matthew Gaines in the 12th legislature. I think this resolution is important to be passed.
With that, that will conclude that period of debate 4, and we'll move into the final round of debate. with a period of debate against to begin. Do I see any debate against? Chair Teague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. I think there's lots of great ideas that have been proposed within this this debate, both for and against. However, I think that there are some more conversations that can be had before we vote on this. Therefore, I move to refer this motion or this resolution, excuse me, to the Student Services Committee.
Do I see any seconds for the motion? Seeing only objection and no seconds. Excuse me, I do stand corrected. There are multiple seconds that came through that I had missed. Seeing multiple seconds as well as multiple objections, we'll now vote on the motion to refer this piece of legislation to the Student Services Committee. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And I do want to recognize Chair Teague with the point of inquiry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. Is the motion to refer debatable?
Chair Hine, just to make sure we're doing this correctly, I will refer to you.
Chair Hine, Rules and Regulations. The motion to refer is debatable. Therefore, you are out of order, Mr. Speaker.
All right, so we now will move into a period of debate on the motion. I appreciate the correction, and I'm glad we can get this done in the correct way. If you all please would lower your hands, and we'll vote at a later time. We'll now begin debate with a period of debate against Chair Teague. Oh, excuse me, withdrawn. Chair Syed.
Chair Syed, Student Services. I'm against moving it to the Student Services Committee because this resolution is more of a response to a question asked by Transportation Service Advisory Committee, and it's part of their process. And so this is more like a yes or no kind of thing. If this is something we're interested in. I yield my time back to the floor.
The floor has been yielded to. We'll now move into a period of debate 4. Chair Teague, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. With respect to Chair Syed, I understand that this is a simple yes or no question that we're basically giving back to transportation. But I think any correspondence we have with any of the university officials, be it dining services, the 12th Man Foundation, or transportation services, we need to make sure that we are really putting our best foot forward and really honing in on what exactly it is that the students want. This isn't just a very basic, yes, we want to do this, or no, we don't want to do this. This has some potential implications for replacing certain bus route names. I think that there's some more work that can be done before we can pass this. That's why I offered the motion to refer.
And seeing as that is the time for that period of debate, that period of debate 4 has concluded. We'll now move back into a period of debate against. Do I see any debate against? Senator Lucas.
Senator Lucas, College of Education. Senator Lucas, College of Education, I'm sorry, I just am not really seeing what there is needed to send it to committee. The resolution itself is very straight and to the point, and the resolution answers the question asked by Student Services, and I don't think that it's unreasonable to want to change Cotton Bowl, considering that that is not something that is integral to our campus culture, and it hasn't been integral to our campus culture since the 90s. I yield my time to the floor.
The floor has been yielded to. We'll now move back into a period of debate 4. Chair Teague, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. In response to the valid concerns raised by Senator Lucas, I understand completely where you're coming from, but as it's been brought up, there are some other little bus routes that maybe are also not integral, or maybe they aren't just as important as Cotton Bowl is. I'm not totally replacing Cotton Bowl with the Senator Matthew Gaines's name, but I want to make sure that we have gone through every single option before we do so, just to make sure that we're making the correct cuts and the correct requests. In response to some earlier questions, we do have a bus route named Center Pole. That is a bonfire thing. That is the very center pole on the bonfire. And as I can see, not a whole lot of people know what that is. So why would they all of a sudden know who Gaines is if they don't know what Center Pole is? I think that this is something that needs to go back to.
Please go ahead and finish with the last sentence.
Go to committee and be polished just a little bit more before we can vote on it. Thank you.
That will conclude that period of debate 4. We'll move into a final round of debate, beginning with debate against. But before we do that, I do want to recognize the point of information from Chair Feldman.
Chair Feldman, Legislative Relations. I have a question. Would it be possible to mitigate all this debate if we potentially were able to amend the resolution? If we still can't, are we able to still amend the resolution so we can not say Cotton Bowl, just say that we want to change a bus route to Gaines? That way there's no more debate and we can all agree on the fact that we do want to do this. It's just the fact that we're debating over any bus route name.
So the question directed to the chair would be?
Are we able to move back into debate to amend?
I do believe Chair Teague did still have the floor in debate against. So we are still in debate. And if this motion does fail, we would go back into that, or whether this motion fails or not, excuse me. If that answers the questions. Chair Teague, you do have the floor still. Excuse me, we had concluded the period of debate 4. We're moving into the period of debate against. Senator Marufo.
Senator Marufo, Liberal Arts Caucus. If you take a look at the bus routes, you can tell that each one is named after something important within A&M's culture, traditions. As for Center Pole, that's not necessarily an on-campus tradition, so I can understand why some people don't really recognize what that is, especially because it's not super supported within the community, but there are still facets within on-campus and off-campus that still keep that tradition alive. And then when it comes to a person and then as something that is an item, I think when people hear people's names, then they become curious as to why they're important instead of items. And so having the Matthew Gaines bus route, I feel like if you are an Aggie who's new to traditions and you didn't go to fish camp like I was, you Google these things like I did when I was a freshman. And it was my first year not really knowing much. So you Google why these things are important, why things are named after other things. And hopefully then students learn about our traditions and people who are important and what makes Aggies Aggies. So I think that having Cotton Bowl change that Senator...
Your sentence.
Like Senator Lucas said, Cotton Bowl isn't too integral in our traditions, and I feel Matthew Gaines is and should be reintroduced to revive why it is they are important to the A&M campus.
And that will conclude the period of debate against. We'll move back into the final period of debate 4. Do I see any debate 4? Senator Wood.
Point of information was that, or point of inquiry, was that not just debate 4? And are we not back into debate against?
That was debate against on the motion. And we're now into debate 4. And you do still have the floor in that debate.
I give my time to the floor, sorry.
The floor has been yielded to you, and that will conclude that period of debate on the motion to refer this piece of legislation to the Student Services Committee. And we will now move into a vote on the motion, beginning with all those in favor. Please raise your hand. Lower your hands. All those opposed? Lower your hands. And by a vote of 7 to 29, that does fail, and that motion will not be moved forward with. We'll now move back into the period of debate against, that final period of debate against. All right, so y'all can hear me? Just to ensure from the chat here. Okay, great. I do know that I have a tendency to leave myself muted, so I apologize if that happens. But with that, again, we'll move back into that period of debate against on the resolution as a whole. Chair Teague, I believe you do still have the floor in that period.
Mr. Speaker, I yield my time back to the floor. Thank you.
The floor has been yielded to you. We'll now move into a period of debate for this resolution. Do I see any debate for? Senator Marufo.
So amendments can be, Senator Marufo, Liberal Arts Caucus. Amendments can only be made in debate against, right? Not debate for.
Correct.
And now the debate against period is going to be over because we only have 3 rounds, right?
Correct. I do believe that can be extended. Chair Hein, if you would like to explain that process.
Sorry, I got muted. Chair Hein, rules and regulations. Yeah, so in order to go back into another round, all you have to do is just extend debate and just put how many rounds you want to go back into, or you could put it by like a minute, 2 minutes, whatever, and we just keep going back and forth until the time is up.
Senator Marufo with the motion.
Senator Marufo, Liberal Arts Caucus. I move to extend the period of debate to 1 more round of for and against.
Do I see any seconds? Seeing multiple seconds, we'll move by general consent to extend debate to 1 more round, both for and against. Do I see any objections? Seeing none, that will be the order, and we will begin with that period of debate against. Do I see any debate against? Senator Marufo, you have the floor.
Senator Marufo, Liberal Arts Caucus. I move to amend this piece of legislation so that myself and any other senators who would like to be added as sponsors can be done.
Do I see any seconds? Seeing multiple seconds, we will move by general consent to add Senator Marufo, as well as any other senators who fill out the form on the drive as a sponsor to this piece of legislation. Do I see any objections? Seeing none, that does pass, and Senator Marufo, along with anyone who fills out that form, will be added as a sponsor to this piece of legislation. Senator Marufo, you do still have the floor in debate against.
I yield my time to Senator Wood.
Senator Wood.
Senator Wood, College of Engineering. Thank you, Johnson. I just lastly want to say we went to the Cotton Bowl in 2013. Like I said, we still can. Bus Route 36 has been a football game route. They just took it away because of COVID, so most likely it will come back. I don't see this being a political matter, and I'm slightly disappointed in Senate tonight. by not expressing their want to please the general majority, as this is not a political matter and it should be something that everybody agrees on for the student body, that it's going to be taking place for so long. You know, we don't want to recognize Senator Matthew Gaines and say that he gets enough awareness and then change it back. No, this is going to be something that's set in stone. So I applaud getting a bus route named after him, but I think it's something that we should have talked about and agreed on as a Senate for representing the entire student body of 76,000 people.
And Senator Wood, if you would please.
My time to Josh, Chair Feldman.
Unfortunately, there is no time left in debate against, so we will move into a period of debate 4. Debate 4. Senator Lucas.
Senator Lucas, College of Education.
Senator Lucas, I am actually going to have to pause you for just a second. Senator Lindsay with a motion.
Yes, Senator Lindsay, Transition Academic Program. I move to extend debate by one period for and against, as it seemed like Chair Feldman would like to speak.
Do I see any seconds?
Chair Hein, point of order.
Go ahead.
The motion to limit or extend debate can only be made when no one has the floor. And Senator Lucas did have the floor, therefore that motion is out of order.
The motion is out of order, so we will resume. Senator Lucas, continue.
Thank you. Senator Lucas, College of Education. I just don't really see how, I understand not wanting to maybe set in stone tonight that we're going to support changing the Cotton Bowl bus route, but I don't see what's political about wanting to change a bus route named after a bowl game when we potentially can play in a different bowl game every year. And I don't understand why wanting to bring some more recognition to an integral part of Texas A&M's history is so controversial. So I think that if we want to amend taking out the specific bus route, that's fine. But I think the legislation as a whole is important. It shouldn't be sent to committee and it should be passed tonight. Thank you. I yield my time to Senator Garcia.
Senator Garcia, and if you would please limit your response to one sentence, as that is time.
Senator Garcia, Health Science Center Caucus. The reason that we're here in Senate tonight is to discuss this, so it is being discussed right now, and it's unfair to say that you're disappointed in us when we just don't agree with you. I yield my time to the floor.
And that will conclude the period of debate 4. And I believe that will also conclude the period of debate, as there are no more rounds, unless I did see a motion. Senator Lindsay.
Yes, Senator Lindsay, Transition Academic Programs. I now move to extend the period of debate by one period for and against and for, as I believe Chair Feldman would like to speak in debate against.
Do I see any seconds? Seeing multiple seconds, we will move by general consent to extend the period of debate by one round of both for and against. Do I see any objections to general consent? Seeing none, that does pass, and that will be the order. And we will continue with a debate, a period of debate, beginning with debate against. Chair Feldman, you have the floor.
Howdy, Senate. Chair Feldman, Legislative Relations. I move to amend the legislation and strike any mention of a specific bus route, and instead within, let me see here, whereas, or therefore let it be resolved 1, we change it to the Student Senate supports or recommends that a bus route is renamed to Matthew Gaines, and leaves it to the Transportation Services Advisory Committee to rename, to deliberate on which is the most effective route to change.
Do I see any seconds to the motion to amend? I see multiple seconds. Pro Tempore Spur, if you would please share screen and make those changes in highlighted format.
Howdy, Speaker Pro Tempore Spur. Executive Director Marvitt is going to be sharing screen.
Go for Marvitt.
If you wouldn't mind, could you please state those amendments again?
Yep. So strike the mention of any specific bus route and change therefore let it be resolved 1 to the Texas A&M Student Senate supports the renaming of a route and moves that, and recommends that the Transportation Services Advisory Committee deliberates on the most effective route to change in the spring or fall of 2021.
Josh, would you please, Chair Feldman, would you please put that in the chat so that I can have the correct spelling and phrasing? Thank you.
Should be in there now. Oh, and I forgot to put in there renaming of a route to Matthew Gaines.
Chair Feldman, does everything look correct?
That looks correct, yes.
All right, so now we'll move into a period of debate on this amendment itself to change, therefore let it be resolved 1 so that it reads the Texas A&M Student Senate supports the naming of a route to Matthew Gaines and recommends the Transportation Services Advisory Committee deliberates on the most effective route to change in spring or fall 2021. And Director Marvitt, if you could just correct the grammar on Gaines so there's not an R there, as well as strike any mention of changing the Cotton Bowl route. We'll begin that period of debate with debate against. Do I see any debate against? Senator Marufo.
Senator Marufo, Liberal Arts Caucus. I really just kind of like have a question. Like, didn't they already meet with the advisory board, and the advisory board was like, these are the options, and then this is one of the options to the bus route to be changed? Like, this was so like this piece of legislation just isn't letting them know that, like, yes, we agree with the option to change the given bus route. Maybe that's a question for the writers of the legislation, but I thought that was like the whole point. So then just like clearing the mentioning of like the cotton bowl really doesn't serve a purpose, because the transportation services has already agreed to like changing the name of a bus route to a Matthews Gaines stop. So I don't know. Is that a question? Is that debate? But I'm against striking mentioning of the cotton bowl and leaving it up to, because then this resolution really wouldn't have any like standing. There wouldn't really be a need for it, because then that could just be done by Chair Syed. Does that make sense? I probably don't make sense, but I'll yield my time to Chair Syed.
Chair Syed.
Student Services, Senator Marufo is absolutely right. So I am against this, but I guess it does not make
You would limit it to a sentence, as we are now out of time.
Okay, it does not make too much of a difference. It's because TSAC is asking us, should we change bus route 36 Cotton Bowl to Matthew Gaines? And we could respond back saying that yes, to change a bus route to Matthew Gaines.
So that is all the time we had in debate against. We'll now move into a period of debate for. Do I see any debate for? Chair Feldman.
Chair Feldman, Legislative Relations. I'd just like to say that this was amended as a form of a compromise between the two parties, because I feel like we've debated long enough about this. I feel like there's a lot of sentiment to change your bus route. And I think that way the phrasing of this amendment gives TSAC the idea to confer amongst themselves or send out a student poll as to who they would want or which bus route they would want changed. So this at least gives them some flexibility to determine which one they'd want to do. I know they recommended 36, but who knows what the actual result will be. So I think that this just makes things easier for both sides. And I yield my time to the floor.
The floor has been yielded to. We'll now return to a period of debate against. Do I see any debate against? Seeing none, that will conclude the period of debate against. We'll move into a period of debate for. Do I see any debate for? Seeing none, that will conclude our period of debate, and we'll now move into a period of debate, a period of voting on the amendment, which reads, and therefore let it be resolved. 1, the Texas A&M Student Senate supports the naming of a route to Matthew Gaines and recommends the Transportation Services Advisory Committee deliberates on the most effective route to change in spring or fall 2021. And then also, along with that amendment, strike any mention of changing the Cotton Bowl route specifically. We'll begin with all those in favor. Please raise your hand. Lower your hands. All those opposed? lower your hands. And by a vote of 13 to 17, that amendment does fail. Director Marbit, if you could please reverse the changes made in the piece of legislation. We'll now return back to a period of debate on the piece of legislation as a whole. Chair Feldman, I do believe you still have the floor.
I yield my time to Senator Garcia.
Senator Garcia.
Sorry, I didn't realize my hand was still up from voting.
Chair Feldman, you do still have the floor. If you'd like to go ahead and yield to the floor.
Then I yield to the floor.
Right. The floor has been yielded to. That will conclude the period of debate against, and we'll move back into that final period of debate for on the resolution as a whole. Do I see any debate for? Senator Marufo.
Senator Marufo, Liberal Arts Caucus. As someone who grew up down the street from the Cotton Bowl in Fair Park in Dallas, Texas, what was known football games that happened there was UT versus OU. I don't remember growing up ever knowing that A&M made it to the Cotton Bowl for the annual football game, but so I don't really think that that's too integral to our community. So I think changing that bus stop to Matthew Gaines, who's a very important figure and should be recognized, is something that should be done, and that's why I'm for the resolution, and I hope that it passes tonight. I yield my time to Senator Garcia.
Senator Garcia, Health Science Center Caucus. I kind of want to bounce off of Senator Marufo and say that as someone who rode bus 36 my entire college career, I don't see the problem with changing it to Senator Gaines' name. There's no emotional attachment to the Cotton Bowl. I yield my time to the floor.
The floor has been yielded to, and I would like to recognize a motion from Senator Lucas.
Senator Lucas, College of Education. I move to have this piece of legislation sent to the Constituency Affairs Committee so that we could send out a survey in the monthly ag input and to as the student body as a whole, since a major point of contingency tonight is ensuring that the student body is on board with.
After the motion, since we're not in a period of debate quite yet, we can't start the debate. Seeing multiple seconds, as well as multiple objections, we will move into a period of voting on whether or not to consider the motion. And I do want to recognize the point of information from Chair Syed.
Thank you, Chair Syed, Student Services. Speaker McHugh, did I tell you about Transportation Services wanting our response back from Student Senate by October 16th?
That is something you said to me, yes.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
And so seeing again, as there were multiple seconds and objections, I actually do want to recognize the point of inquiry from Speaker Pro Tempore Spur.
Speaker Pro Tempore Spur, my point of inquiry is for Chair Syed. Did we not have different versions of this resolution not being put up until this meeting when we could have put up a resolution and then asked for student input on it?
Chair Syed, Student Services. Correct. However, we have been discussing, and none of the content has changed in terms of we are asking for this specific bus route to be renamed for about a month plus.
And so with that, we'll return back to, excuse me, we won't return quite yet. I do want to recognize the point of inquiry from Senator Wood.
Senator Wood, College Engineering, kind of going off of Pro Tem Spur's point. I know I had contacted you 3 weeks ago, so I don't think that it's the Senate's fault for the delay. I think that,
Senator,
sorry. So do you think it's the Senate's fault, or do you think the Senate should suffer, or should the Senate suffer for the delay in the resolution being put forward?
And is that directed at Chair
Yeah,
Sayed?
yeah.
Chair side student services, absolutely not. I do understand. However, this has, again, been discussed for a really long time, and that's all. And as the voice of the student body, we can vote to represent the voice, as will be for most resolutions. I yield my time back to the floor.
And Chair Sayed, I do believe you have a motion in the chat as well.
Yes. Can I motion for previous question?
Seeing as we're already considering a motion to send this piece of legislation to the Constituency Affairs Committee, we'll first consider that motion. So your motion is out of order. Chair Oldag, I do want to recognize your point of order.
Point of order, Chair Oldag, Community Relations. I believe, Chair Hyde may have to correct me, but I believe he's allowed to call previous question on this current motion still. Does that make sense? Like, we can still in debate on what we're currently talking about.
So we haven't moved into a discussion of the motion itself yet. We're still voting on whether or not to consider the motion, seeing as there were objections as well as seconds. Chair Hine, correct me if I'm out of order.
Senators who do not have their videos on do not have speaking privileges. Therefore, Chair Oldag is out of order.
Chair Oldag is out of order. And so we will again return to the multiple seconds as well as multiple objections and vote on whether or not to consider the motion to refer this piece of legislation to the Constituency Affairs Committee. All those in favor of considering the motion, we're not voting on the motion itself yet, but all those in favor of considering the motion, please raise your hand. Lower your hands. All those opposed? Lower your hands. And with a vote of 18 to 18, that vote does tie. Chair Hine, in the event of a tie, seeing as the motion did need a majority, I believe the motion fails. Is that correct?
Yes, unless you would like to cast your vote in the affirmative, which would make it a majority. But as speaker, you're only allowed to vote in the event of a tie. So you can either let it fail as a tie or cast your vote in one way or another to make it pass or fail, if that makes sense.
Well, then I will elect to use my vote in the affirmative, and we will move to consider the motion. With that being said, we will now move into a period of debate on the motion itself, whether or not to refer this piece of legislation to the Constituency Affairs Committee. Do I see any debate against? Chair Teague with the point of inquiry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. Mr. Speaker, what was the vote we just took?
The vote we took was to consider the motion, and so now we are in the process of considering the motion.
Thank you.
And again, we are in that period of debate against the motion itself. Do I see any debate against? Seeing none, we'll move into a period of debate 4. Do I see any debate 4? Senator Lucas.
Senator Lucas, College of Education. In regards to Chair Syed's concern about the time crunch with October 16th, I don't think it would be unreasonable to have the Constituency Affairs Committee comprise a survey this weekend, have it sent out on Monday, have us meet at some point late next week in order to have the legislation ready to be submitted on Sunday, the 11th, prior to the October 14th meeting, in which we could debate on the legislation and have it ready for TSAC on October 16th. I yield my time to Senator Wood.
Senator Wood.
Senator Wood, College of Engineering. I second that. I yield my time to the floor.
The floor has been yielded to. We'll now move back into a period of debate against. Do I see any debate against? Chair Syed.
Chair Syed, Student Services.
Actually, do you want to pause you for just a second to recognize the point of information from Chair Jeffress?
Chair Jeffress, Academic Affairs. Chair Rodriguez, what was the last participation on our surveys? The last count of the participation.
Chair Rodriguez.
Is it a race?
I'm sorry, can you please repeat that for a second?
Yes, of course. Chair Rodriguez, what was the last, for the last survey we did, what was the amount of participation we got?
Yes, for the last survey, it was not necessarily as high as we wanted. It was around a 30% response rate, but it was not something that we necessarily saw as something that was projected towards the student body.
What was the, sorry, follow up?
Do you have another point of information?
Yes.
Go ahead.
And what was the total number of individuals that responded?
I do, before you answer, Chair Rodriguez, want to recognize Chair Teague with point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. I think we've already established that those without cameras on do not have speaking privileges.
That is correct, and Chair Rodriguez is out of order. Chair Rodriguez, are you able to use your camera?
At this moment, I'm actually on my way home, but I can in a couple of minutes if you want to come back with that question.
All right. So the chair is out of order and cannot answer the point of information. Chair Jeffress, is the point of information directed towards anyone else or just Chair Rodriguez?
Just Chair Rodriguez. So I withdraw my point of information. Oh,
I
never
would
mind.
like to recognize Pro Tem Spur with a point of information.
Howdy, Speaker Pro Tempore Spur. I am not sure if this is a point of information, but Sam, I can answer your question as the previous Constituency Affairs Chair. The last survey that we sent out to the student body had a 39% response rate. That was the Sully survey. The survey before that had over 300 responses to it. That was not sent out through the main email. It was not sent out via bulk mail though. So that was purely through social media response. But with its response rate, the Sully survey would be the last ag input that was sent.
Right, and Chair Syed, I do believe you have the floor in debate against.
Chair Syed, Student Services. This point of inquiry is
I'm gonna have to go ahead and pause you real quick to recognize the point of order from Senator Wood.
He is not on the right track. Wow. Senator Wood, College of Engineering. He's not on the correct dress code.
Seeing as that is correct and dress code does require a tie, Chair Syed, you are out of dress code and unfortunately cannot speak until it is remedied. With that, the floor has been yielded to. Excuse me, there are other hands up. So with that, give the floor to Chair Teague. And Chair Teague, before you start speaking, I would like to pause you for a motion from Senator Lindsay.
Senator Lindsay, Transition Academic Program, I move to the previous question to clarify to vote on this amendment.
To vote on the motion. Seeing a second as well as an objection, we'll now vote on whether or not to move the previous question on this motion to refer. So what we're voting on, just so that we are all on the same page here, is we're voting on whether or not to move to a vote on this motion to refer this piece of legislation to a committee. And so with that, all those in favor of moving the previous question, please raise your hand. Lower your hands. And all those opposed? Lower your hands. And Chair Hine, just to make sure I don't stand out of order, this vote for the previous question, is it a majority or a 2/3 vote?
Chair Hine, Rules and Regulations, this is a 2/3 vote.
So then by a vote of 19 to 12, this does fail. And so we will continue with debate on the motion itself. I will go into a period of debate for, seeing as the period of debate against had been yielded. Senator Harlan. Never mind, I don't think Senator Harlan's hand was up for that purpose. Do I see any debate for? Before I do that, I do want to recognize the motion from Senator Marufo.
Senator Marufo, Liberal Arts Caucus. Senator Marufo, Liberal Arts Caucus, I move to suspend the rules around dress code for the rest of the night.
Do I see any seconds? Seeing multiple seconds as well as multiple objections, we'll now vote on the suspension of the rules to suspend the rules so that dress code will not apply for the remainder of this meeting. All those in favor? I actually do want to recognize Chair Oldag.
Point of inquiry, are we allowed to entertain a motion to suspend the rules while we're currently debating, or the motion of previous question is on the floor?
So the motion of previous question had failed, but we are still discussing the motion of referring this piece of legislation. So Chair Hine to refer.
My apologies. Okay.
Yeah, the motion to suspend is in order.
Seeing as it is in order, we will continue with the vote. Again, with all those in favor, raising your hands.
Oh.
Lower your hands. All those against? Lower your hands. And Chair Hine, again, just to make sure we are following the correct procedure for the suspension of the rules, is it a 2/3 or majority vote?
Chair Hine, Rules and Regulations, to suspend the rules, it does require a 2/3 vote.
And seeing as it is a vote of 22 to 18, that does fail, and the rules have not suspended and dress code does still apply. I believe we were in a period of debate 4 on the motion to refer this piece of legislation to the Constituency Affairs Committee. I would like to recognize the motion from Chair Jeffress.
Chair Jeffress, Academic Affairs. I move the previous question.
Do I see any seconds? Seeing multiple seconds and no objections, we will move by general consent to move the previous question on this motion and vote on it. Do I see any objections to general consent? Seeing none, that does pass, and the previous question has been moved, and so we will now proceed with a period of voting on this motion to refer SR 7322, the Everybody Gains Resolution, to the Constituency Affairs Committee. All those in favor of this motion, please raise your hand. Lower your hands. And all those against? Lower your hands. And one final time, Chair Hein, for a motion to refer to committee, is it 2/3 or majority vote?
Chair Hein, Rules and Regulations, a majority vote is required to refer a motion to a committee.
Then by vote of 20 to 19, that motion does carry. This piece of legislation will be referred to the Constituency Affairs Committee for further consideration. So with that, we will now move into a period of the reading of SR 7324, the Fujifilm Operation Warp Speed Resolution. Senator Rogers, I believe you are the author. Let me know if there's anyone else to unmute.
Thank you. Speaker McHugh, would you please unmute Jim?
Senator Rogers, I think you cut out there. Who would you like me to unmute? Is it Chair Feldman?
Oh, Joseph Rogers can't. Oh, yes.
Y'all do have the floor.
Is Joseph still here?
I think his audio may have gone out. I have lost the ability to unmute him, so I don't think his audio is working. If you want to go ahead and proceed, and then he can join back in.
I can just proceed. Howdy, Senate. Chair Feldman. This is the Fujifilm Operation Warp Speed Resolution. It's a resolution to extend gratitude to the federal government for awarding a contract to Fujifilm Biotechnologies to produce a COVID-19 vaccine. So whereas one, the federal government has launched Operation Warp Speed in response to the dire need for a vaccine for the novel SARS coronavirus 2, CoV-2. And the White House announced on July 27, 2020, that Fujifilm Texas A&M Innovation Center would receive a $265 million contract to produce the vaccination candidate of Novavax Incorporated, or NVX-CoV-2373 in College Station, Texas. And Fujifilm Biotechnologies is a subcontractor to the Texas A&M system and coordinates with the university system through the Center of Innovation and Advanced Development and Manufacturing program, which was created in response to the H1N1 influenza pandemic. And whereas 4, Fujifilm owns and operates 3 facilities built through the CIA DM program. And therefore, let it be resolved 1, the Texas A&M Student Senate would like to thank the federal government for incorporating both the Texas A&M system and Fujifilm Diosynth Biotechnologies in Operation Warp Speed in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And Joseph, are you back?
Yes, sorry for the technical difficulties.
No worries. Therefore, let it be resolved 2, the Texas A&M Student Senate encourages and advocates for further funding towards developing a vaccine for the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And
let it therefore be resolved 3, the Texas A&M Student Senate welcomes and advocates for further funding toward the Texas A&M system and its affiliated contractors and subcontractors, which will further the economic development of Texas and the Bryan-College Station area. And
therefore, let it be resolved 4, the Texas A&M Student Senate thanks all the professionals at Fujifilm Diosynth Biotechnologies for their dedication towards developing a vaccine and receives our deepest gratitudes. And
therefore, let it be resolved 5, let a copy of this resolution be sent to Michael G. O'Quinn, Vice President for Government Relations and Strategic Initiatives, Dr. Daniel J. Pugh Sr., Vice President of Student Affairs, Michael J. Hardy, Assistant Vice President for Government Relations, Fujifilm, and the battalion. And to the floor for questions.
Presenters are open for questions. Are there any questions for the presenters at this time? Chair Jeffers.
Chair Jeffers, Academic Affairs. So what kind of response are you guys looking at to get from this resolution? Are you guys looking for to inform the student body or response from administration or something?
Here, I can take this one. So Chair Jeffers, I know we spoke about this a little bit privately, but what we're looking for is, first of all, we do advocate, sorry about that, within the resolution to possibly increase funding towards Fujifilm if necessary. So that's a further part of our advocacy platform. Second of all, this is to generate awareness towards Operation Warp Speed and the amount given to Texas A&M, as well as also extend the Student Senate's gratitude towards the workers who actually are a majority of students that graduated recently. I personally know a couple of them as well, who are working tirelessly to find a cure to the COVID-19 pandemic that's plaguing us all currently. So I feel like this is a great extension of not only our gratitude, it adds to our advocacy platform, and it generates awareness.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions for the presenters? Seeing none, that will conclude the period of period of question and answer, excuse me, and I'll move it into a period of debate, beginning with debate against. Do I see any debate at this time? Senator Wood.
Senator Wood, College Engineering. I have a motion for amendment. I would like to add myself or any other sponsor or any other senator as a sponsor.
Do I see any seconds? Seeing multiple seconds, we will move by general consent to add Senator Wood, as well as any other senator who fills out the form found on the drive as a sponsor to this piece of legislation. Do I see any objections to general consent? Seeing none, that does pass. Senator Wood, you do still have the floor.
I yield my time to the floor.
The floor has been yielded to. The form can be found in the drive, and Ops, if you would please send the form in the chat as well. for senators who are interested in sponsoring. We will now move into a period of debate 4. Do I see any debate 4? Seeing none, we'll move into the second round of debate with a period of debate against. Do I see any debate against? Chair Teague with point of inquiry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. Mr. Speaker, what's the number of this bill for those of us that are filling out the sponsorship form?
This is SR 7324.
Thank you.
Mhm. I will return to the period of debate, but seeing as there was no debate against, we'll move back into period of debate 4. Do I see any debate 4? And seeing none, that will conclude our period of debate. We will now move into a period of voting on this resolution, SR 7324, the Fujifilm Operation Warp Speed resolution, led by Pro Tem Spur.
Howdy, Senate. It is 9:10, and so that voting form will open and will close at 9:13, and I will go ahead and send them quickly. It is SR 7324. Howdy, Speaker Pro Tempore Spur Off-Campus Caucus. It is now 9:13, so we are going to go ahead and close that form. And with a vote of 41 in favor and 4 in abstention, that will pass.
SR 7324, the Fujifilm Operation Warp Speed resolution, does pass, and that will conclude our period of new business, and we'll move into a period of open session. Pro Tem Spur, do we have any pieces in the drive for open session?
Speaker Pro Tempore Spur, Off-Campus Caucus. No, we do not have any pieces in the draft for open session.
And that will conclude our period of open session, and we'll move into a period of committee reports, beginning with Speaker Pro Tempore Spur.
Well, howdy, Speaker Pro Tempore Spur, Off-Campus Caucus. Howdy, y'all. I do apologize for the beginning of the meeting. I was in our fish aids meeting, meeting the fish aids for Senate, so be excited. We're going to get some fish aids soon. But great job tonight. There's a lot of debate. I'm really impressed with the Parley Pro. Y'all are getting really good at that. I attribute that partially to Chair Hine, but congratulations. Y'all are working really hard on that. Updates for me. The absences were not updated today. No, you didn't miss an email. Unfortunately, there were some unforeseen circumstances with getting in a last few absences in there, and so those will come out by the end of the week. I do apologize for the delay, but I want to make sure the information is as accurate as possible. I don't want to have like half of absences done for one meeting and not another, and so those will be done by the end of the week. The website will be updated accordingly by the end of this week as well from the last two meetings. If y'all haven't seen, all of the votes are already in the votes folder for this meeting, anything that was voted on. Thank you, Senator Wood, for the thumbs up. I know that's something that y'all have been consistently asking about. We are moving all of the other votes over, but all of the other votes are consistent and updated on the website. So if it's not in the votes folder on the drive yet, it will be. It's most likely on our website. So Ops is doing a really good job at trying to update that and get that configured. The only other thing from me is we are trying to make sure that everything is in order for y'all in these meetings. Hopefully the meeting minutes folder or like the meeting materials folder is helpful. Hopefully the time change with the voting is helpful. And if y'all have any questions for me, like I said in my email this week, please email me. My Slack is weird, doesn't always notify me, and so I've missed some things from y'all, and I want to make sure I am paying attention to your questions and being attentive to what y'all need from me. So please send me an email. That is the best way to get a hold of me, and I will respond to you within 24 hours of that. But with that, I yield my time to questions.
Are there any questions for Pro Tempore Spur? Chair Feldman.
Chair Feldman, Legislative Relations. I think it's great that the votes are going to be online and they're getting there. Are the votes that people, when they don't vote, are those being counted as abstentions? Because I know that we were having a conversation, I believe, last meeting about how it's important that everyone consistently votes as it's their duty to be in Senate to do that. Are those being counted as abstentions, or are those just being counted as did not vote?
So in the meeting, when we are reciting those numbers off to you, I will actually pan. I am sitting in the office right now. I don't know if y'all can see that pie graph. That is what we normally look at to tell you what the votes looked like, because we do want to give you that immediate response. We have not counted them at all. We've just counted it as you were not present for that. So that is a good point. I don't know what the rules are with the code on that. That would have to be a question to Chair Hine. But the totals that we are giving you in the meeting are from what is on the form and nothing else.
Chair Teague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. Madam Pro Tempore Spur. So if a senator is marked present for the meeting, both opening and closing, their votes aren't counted in the total vote count if they don't vote, if they just ignore the votes completely. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, yes. I don't want to incorrectly. So basically, if you're in the meeting and you're not voting, that's not something that we're checking for. Unfortunately, there are probably 20 things that the operations committee is running at once, and so it's not something that we've gone back and checked. If it is a code thing and it is something that I need to be going back and checking, Megan can correct me on that and I will go back and do that. But as of right now, no, it is just, there's nothing. It's just kind of thin air. It's not existent.
Permission to follow up, Mr. Speaker.
Granted.
And again, I'm not the Rules and Regs chair, but it would seem that if this were anything but an online platform, if you were marked present at any meeting in Coldus 144, that would be counted as an abstention, and that you didn't rise or you didn't cast a vote. I'd love some clarity from Chair Hine on this when she gives her report, but I just wanted to bring that to the Senate's attention. Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and pass that to Chair Hine.
So we'll get to Chair Hine in just a second. Are there any other questions for Pro Tem Porspur? Seeing none, thank you, Speaker Pro Tem Porspur. Chair Hine, you do have the floor.
Chair Hine, Rules and Regulations. And try to cover as much people want to hear as possible, so I may go a little longer, but I will still try to keep this as short as possible. So first off, I know in the first few meetings that we've been lenient on professional dress, are starting to get more strict, which is why we ask that your cameras be on when you are speaking so we can enforce that. Internet. Can y'all hear me now? Can y'all hear me? Okay, perfect. Sorry. So we will be enforcing dress code more strictly now since we have gotten to the gist of being on Senate, just as we would be on the Senate floor. Speak and be lost if you have 2 or more points of order. I know I haven't been super strict on that, but that is of being out of order, using the power you have to speak and be here in the meeting. So just be cognizant of that. Parley Pro, for the most part, guys, I've been so proud. Like, as a Parley Pro nerd, it took me years and years and years to learn, and y'all are doing fantastic, which makes my heart so happy. I will be covering a few little things at the next meeting in a presentation that will be done by my committee, just to touch up a few things, but seriously, y'all have been doing so good. All of the questions that were kind of just asked, I know Chair Teague, you'd asked about some absences things. I have looked in the code. I haven't found anything that doesn't prevent a senator from coming in at the beginning of the meeting, leaving in the middle, and then filling it out at the end and not having to have an absence counted against them. Obviously, this is a weird time because of the circumstances of being on Zoom. However, that's something we can look into. And Chair Feldman, I'm so sorry. I forgot what your question was, but if you'll ask me during the question and answers, I will answer it to the best of my ability. But that goes on to another point, is if y'all have any questions about the code or about Parley Pro, I'll be starting my office hours up next week. I just got my job schedule, so I can finally set those in stone. But seriously, send me a text, an email. If you want to send snail mail, go for it. I am here for your resources, and I can be used at your discretion. So my next committee meeting will be at 5:30 next Wednesday, and I will send out my office hours in the office hours Slack channel. But other than that, I am open for questions.
Chair Feldman, Legislative Relation.
Yeah, Chair Feldman. Okay.
Somehow got muted there. But Chair Feldman, Legislative Relations. So I guess I have 2 questions going off that. So first is my original question to Chair Spur or Pro Tempore Spur was essentially, how are we currently counting, I guess, within the code, individuals that are present for opening roll call and not present for votes or decide not to vote? Not as an abstention, just actually don't vote. are we counting those as abstentions currently? Because in my personal opinion, I think it's a disservice. I think people should be voting on every single piece of legislation. That's what they're elected to do. And then I guess my second question would be is, I know back when we were in Coldus 144, I'm sure some of y'all in 72 remember that we had to maintain quorum. And that's, I think, also kind of a dual-sided issue with this.
You could round out your question.
Is how are we making sure that that's effectively happening as well?
So for the first question, you're exactly right. We are elected to serve our constituents. And I'm going to call out McKillen-Assis here for just a second. One of our favorite things is we don't want to be butts in chairs. Like, we want to actually do something. And that's what we're elected to do, is to do something and not be butts in chairs. Unfortunately, senators have every power to abstain every single vote they want to, or not vote and be a butt in the chair. There's nothing we can do against that. But no, you're exactly right. Like, we are senators and we're a professional organization, and we should hold ourselves to a higher standard of voting for legislation and serving our constituents the best we can. So for the second one, maintaining quorum, this is a tricky one since quorum is the majority of Senate to be in the room, I believe. I can double check that on Zoom unless we require cameras to be on, which is something that's very, very difficult to do given all of the circumstances surrounding that issue. We can have 76 or 67 people on here and meet quorum and not have that many people voting. And unfortunately, the people who don't vote are counting as abstentions, and you don't have any rules saying like you can't abstain from voting. So it's a tricky situation that we're in, murky waters. I think there's something we can do to fix it. We just haven't found that out yet.
Mr. Speaker, permission to back and forth?
Very brief.
So just to clarify, so that was the original question I asked the chairs first. People that don't vote, they're counted as abstentions, correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. That's what I was wondering.
Are there any other questions for Chair Hein? Chair Syed.
Chair Syed, Student Services. I do want to confirm, Chair Hein, that so if someone doesn't vote and their name is not on the spreadsheet, their name is added in as an abstention?
Not from my understanding. I believe that it's just counted as an abstention due to the fact that they did not vote. That's something kind of a pro tempore question, but that's just kind of the default option of if you don't vote, you abstain from voting.
Are there any other questions for Chair Hein? Senator Nassis.
Senator Nassis, on-campus caucus. Chair Hein, would an easy way to fix this just have everyone vote and not vote?
Yeah, no, the easiest way to be a good senator and to alleviate all problems surrounding this issue would to just be to vote. So get out and vote.
Are there any other questions for Chair Hein? And seeing none, thank you, Chair Hein. We'll now go to Chair Teague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll keep this brief. First of all, thank you to each and every one of you that voted on the finance bill. I think it's a great bill. I think it gets some very valuable monies straight away to those committees, commissions, and branches, so they can get right to work and they can start making the impact on the student body. it would not have been possible, obviously, without the incredibly hard work from my committee. I'd like to take a moment to recognize Senators Bone, Mosley, Killen, and Vick. Again, absolutely instrumental in the passage of this, in both the writing, the deliberation, and the passage of this bill. Couldn't have done it without them. Great committee members. Other than that, I have nothing except for thank you. I yield my time to questions.
Are there any questions for Chair Teague? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Teague. Chair Ahmed has had to step out, I believe, for class, and so we'll now go to Chair Jeffress.
Howdy, Chair Jeffress, Academic Affairs. So first off, the Honor Council appointments did get pushed through, and we have the Fall 2020 Student Honor Council members. An update from the Honor Council as well. They'll be hiring 1 or 2 peer navigators by the end of this week. So big shout out to all of us. Our resolution was a big part of getting that funding. Next, my committee is in full swing, and we have several projects and meetings in the works. So huge shout out to everyone that's being active and getting everything ready to represent your constituents. Finally, my committee report will be in the Academic Affairs Drive, and there you can find the link to the COVID advisory meeting and my Zoom link, as well as the agenda for that meeting, which will be Wednesday at 7. That's all.
Are there any questions for Chair Jeffress? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Jeffress. We'll now go to Chair Feldman.
Chair Feldman, Legislative Relations. Thank you, Senate, for passing the Fujifilm Operation Warp Speed resolution. That's going to go to a lot of good work. So thank you for that. On top of that, my committee has broken up into groups for specific policy focuses. So those range from student health fee cap, increasing funding for higher education, and then OER. So if you have any questions about those, feel free to reach out. Our committee meetings will be slightly closed and broken up for the time being, as we want to give them time to research. Besides that, we've got some really cool resolutions and bills coming forward. So excited for y'all to see that. And now I open to questions.
Are there any questions for Chair Feldman?
Thank you.
None. Thank you, Chair Feldman. We'll now go to Chair Syed.
Chair Syed, Student Services. Howdy, Senate. First off, thank you all for listening to and participating in the conversation regarding the Matthew Gaines bus resolution. Secondly, our Student Services Committee met and we're working on the Police Appreciation Resolution. At our last meeting, we worked on it for about an hour and a half, but after a vote was called to move it out of committee, it was voted 5-1 to keep it in committee because I believe the general consensus was to help do justice for the author's work as well as what Student Senate asked for us. So we will continue discussing that resolution at our next meeting and again call for that vote to help remove it from committee to bring it back to the Senate floor for a vote. I've been working on some little things here and there as senators reach out about fixes that they would like to see. If you have any of those related to student services, please continue to reach out and I'll help find the right contacts to help make that happen. Thank you. I yield my time back to you.
Oh, sorry. Are there any questions for Chair Syed? Chair Teague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance.
Chair Syed, what exactly was the objections to the police resolution? What are the changes? Did you identify those? What was the problem with not doing justice to the authors?
Sorry about that. Thank you for the question. I believe as we were working on it, the committee felt that more work needed to be done, and so in order to do that, the committee voted to keep it in committee for more time.
Permission to follow up.
Granted.
Do you see what does the timeline look for when this is going to come back, or is it going to come back?
Again, thank you for asking. I said in the last student senate meeting that I was hoping for it to come back out in today's senate meeting. However, again, I can't guarantee the exact date because it is up to the committee as a whole, and that's just the way it is in senate. But it will be brought up again. That vote will be called again to move it out of committee in our next meeting.
Are there any other questions for Chair Syed? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Syed. I will now move to Chair Rodriguez.
Howdy, Senate. Chair Rodriguez here. Sorry, I'm a little bit under the weather, so I apologize for not having the camera on earlier, but I'm back. So I'm working closely with Chair Hine on our caucus leader reformation, so stay tuned for that. I will be having my next committee meeting next Wednesday. It'll be at 7 p.m. Definitely come, check it out. We're going to be definitely discussing the resolution for the Matthew Gaines bus resolution. So if you have any input or any advice or anything that you guys want to add into that, definitely come to the meeting. I'm open for all ears, even if you're not in my committee or you maybe have friends that are not in Senate that want to come and support their voice and what they have to say about the resolution. I'm here for everybody, so definitely be aware for that. I'll send the information on the Slack for the Zoom link. Also, I do have the response rate that I looked up. I wasn't necessarily going to give out a number that I wanted to make sure that it wasn't correct for the earlier question stated by Chair Jeffrey. So the regular response rate for 30%, but if we were looking at including the Surly statute, which was given this past summer when we had a lot of debate over the Surly statute, that was a 22,824 respondent rate for the survey with the student population of 58,851 for the spring 2020. And I got that from the results that we were provided from their survey takers of the university when we were able to administer that specific survey. So if you guys also have any more questions about the surveys that we have administered or about a new survey that we should possibly send out, I'm also thinking of sending out a survey for this Matthew Gaines bus resolution just to see the student population vote and a voice on this. So if you guys have any questions about that, definitely don't hesitate to reach out. I will be having my committee meeting if you have any more questions, but other than that, I leave my vote to the floor.
Chair Syed.
Chair Syed, Student Services. Chair Rodriguez, I just wanted to confirm, in terms of like a typical average response rate, by 30%, do you mean like 30% of the student body, so approximately 20K responses on most ag inputs?
Well, it definitely varies on the ag input. It's definitely never going to reach, 20, 30,000. There has been some ag inputs that have historically marked, 5%, 6%. It all depends on what the topic is about. We could count the Sully survey as an ag input, and that would also be up to 38%. Though, so that's just more of an average of what the student response rate has been throughout the years.
All right, permission to follow up?
Granted.
All right. Typically, what does that mean in terms of number on an average ag input? Like number of students to respond? Excluding the Sully survey.
Sorry, I was unmuted there and I couldn't get back to speak. But no, so that just kind of has an average on what exactly has been respondents rate for the different ag inputs that have been released. I know the biggest one that we have released is about the Sully statute. So that's the one that we've been using as kind of a gist of what we've got as far as response rates. But in the past, I know since we have just started more of ag input and survey respondents, it has been very low. But since a lot of more students are seeing the voices that are represented in student government, a lot more have been responding to these results. So it does vary throughout the years.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Chair Rodriguez? Speaker Pro Tempore Spur.
Speaker Pro Tempore Spur. Sorry, I'm putting on my jacket so I'm back in code. Chair Rodriguez, isn't it true that Ag Input was a program started last fall by yours truly that was not sent out entirely to the student body until February, which is when we had the highest response rate. And then after that, we were not able to send it via bulk mail due to COVID.
Yes, ma'am, that is a new response that we have made as far as helping the student voice be valued in opinion. So it's not something that we necessarily have had throughout the years. We could give a huge statistic of something that's, you know, been projected in the future, but it is something very new and something that is definitely picked up throughout the years, especially since releasing the Sully, survey. And that's something that we're hoping to keep at a very high response rate with the next coming surveys we are hoping to release, especially with this Matthew Gaines resolution for a bus route. So hopefully that'll hit a big home run as well.
Are there any other questions for Chair Rodriguez? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Rodriguez. I will now move to Chair Oldad.
Howdy, Senate. So things just going on in the city right now. There was a workshop where they presented options on different definitions of related and family. So it's looking like they're moving closer towards putting the ROO back on the floor, but they're still not there yet. It would take me a while to kind of break down all of the definitions and things like that. So I will be holding office hours tomorrow morning, and I can take a few more questions on that. But there's a lot of algorithms and stuff that go into it, and it would take way too long to explain. There are alternatives discussed that they discussed that I will be advocating for, such as more on-site parking, more parking permits, increasing fines for noise and trash, and just penalties for excessive violations, things like that. So that's just kind of what's going on with the ROO. There's some talk of like Texas Department of Transportation stuff, a lot of road construction, things with like medians, and just improvements on the roads on a lot of main roads. I think like Wellborn University, things like that. I can post that in Slack, kind of what they're working on, just to like update y'all. Those are just works in progress. And like I said, again, I'll be holding office hours tomorrow, and I'll be sending a link in the chat. It'll be from 9 to 10. And also, Monday is the last day that you're able to register to vote in the election this 2020. So this is a great resource if you're not registered to vote yet, gigthevote.com. They do a lot of great stuff, have a lot of resources. You can look there. Yeah, that's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions for Chair Oldad? Senator Martin.
Senator Martin, Liberal Arts Caucus. I was just wondering if you could potentially inform the Senate on what dates early voting starts and ends, as well as, you know, the November 3rd election.
Yes. So
for people to get out and vote.
Yeah, of course. So election day is November 3rd. The last day to register is October 5th. Absentee ballot deadline request, I believe, is October 23rd. And then early voting is all throughout October 13th all the way to the 30th. And that really varies based on county, like what date, and then the hours based on where you live. So early voting starts October 13th, if I'm correct. Helena or someone else. I have to double check me on that. But yeah, those are kind of the dates. October 5th is like the first deadline that's really approaching soon. It's less than a week away to be able to register to vote. So just you can look up to where you're registered to vote, what county you're registered to vote in, and there's also vote by mail, and lots of options if you're not able to get to where you're registered to vote, if that makes sense. So October 5th is the closest one approaching, but October 13th throughout 30th, pretty much all throughout after that point in October is when early voting will be taking place.
Chair Teague.
I apologize, Mr. Speaker. I did not know my hand was up.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Are there any other questions for Chair Oldag? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Oldag. I will now go to Director Marbut.
Howdy, Senate. Hope y'all all had a good night. I just want to kind of echo Pro Temp Spur. The Operations Committee will be working very diligently to get the recording of this meeting uploaded to both the YouTube and the website. And we will also work to get the legislation that was passed this meeting uploaded onto the website. As per usual, I'd like to recognize the Operations Committee. They work very, very, very hard to make sure that meetings in this capacity can work and function very well and seamlessly. I'd just like to applaud them. That's about all I have, and I yield my time to the floor. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Director Marbut? Seeing none, thank you, Director Marbut. That will conclude our period of committee reports. We'll now move into a period of executive reports, beginning with SVP Mendoza. Eric, I don't think your audio is working.
Okay, can you hear me, Zach?
Yes, we got you. All right, good.
Pro Temp Spur, it was right next door like we planned. Thank you, Hannah. But that was weird. Okay, sorry about that. I was going to say it was going to be short and sweet, but that just took all my time. But anyways, howdy, Senate. We're in cold distance still because we appreciate the work that Chair Teague, Senator Bone, Senator Mosley, Senator Killen, and Senator Vick also, as well as EVP Coote, that put into the finance process. I just signed it. Pro Tem Spur sent it to Speaker McHugh. He's signing it as of now. Committees will get money very, very soon. So thanks for all y'all's work. I will very quickly congratulate everyone who just got their Aggie rings. As someone who got my ring in the spring, at Buc-ee's, I'm very pleased that all of you had the opportunity to at least go in person and experience that, hopefully with family. It's an exciting day. You've earned it. So congratulations on having that on your finger now. I hope it fits. Seems to be big on most, but get a ring filler. Don't waste time getting it resized. Anyways, voting was mentioned and Gig to Vote was mentioned, which is a part of our Vice President of Municipal Affairs and her team and her work with Chair Oldag, actually mentioned as well. And I just want to congratulate and appreciate the work that they've done this week ahead of Monday's deadline. They have a partnership with RHA as their key partnership. Last Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, if my days are correct, 7,800 informational flyers in residence halls around campus were sent out to students on how they can vote, Gig to Vote information, barcodes on those sheets, and that was supplemented with informationals at the nighttime with the VDRs that are on the Gig to Vote team to answer questions directly from our on-campus populations. So that's really great. I know SAC's done great work, other great stuff, and that'll continue with the actual voting push that we hope to work with them on just to get students to vote, period. As Senator Martin touched on as well with those dates. There will be a larger space for at least voting specifically in November, working on getting one larger for early voting as well, undecided but in the county's hands. So keep a lookout on that. Obviously, the primary focus is easiest on students with ample space to have a line if needed. I will also say one of the biggest things that we continue to hear, especially as it's harder and harder to have in-person components, and especially our freshmen underclassmen on campus who have less and less people they get to interact with, is the mental health toll that a lot of our students are facing. And so CAPS obviously has fantastic resources. They've got the hotline that's always there. They traditionally did not do counseling over the phone, but started after spring break. They're doing fantastic work, and we like partnering with them. We're also supplementing that great service with another tool in the toolbox, as I like to say, for our students. And if you live at the barracks, you've probably seen this text. It's called Listeners on Call. It's a service that pairs you with someone else who's listening that's dealt with something you've dealt with. So if you're dealing with a loss in the family, person on the other line will have dealt with the same thing. And so we've got and secured 850 free phone calls for our students that will be rolling out very soon with their help, with the help of Aggies, with the Aggie Moms Club specifically, the Federation of Aggie Moms. And so that's a great service for our students too. Mental health is really, unfortunately, taking a toll right now. So I'm excited about that partnership and hopefully get more calls in the future for students for free as well to, again, add another tool to their toolbox. And then finally, I'll just say, as I've mentioned a lot, Howdy Health is continuing to move along. We finalized the order form there. And so I keep harping on it because you all will get one of the Howdy Health masks, of course. And so I hope to see all of you wearing it eventually very soon. We'll pass it out to students. We're really eager to find a way to interact with them. Cookies and Coffee was done last year. And like most of you, we're missing those interaction points beyond Zoom or beyond a phone call. And so we want to use that and free passing out of masks to also supplement with getting their feedback, allowing them to see us more, just trying to get in the face of students more and allow them to know who we are, know who you are, and also get their feedback directly. There's a lot going on. So obviously football happened this past weekend. And you know, I recognize, we talked about a lot in these discussions that you know, some things are happening and some things aren't. So I recognize that there is a discrepancy there. I personally think that we should push to have more and more safely in person. Keyword there, safely. And so I don't think it's all or nothing, but I do recognize that. And I think that, in my opinion, I was at the football game and ran into a number of you actually safely there. You know, I think it was done well. We have a lot of room for improvement. I don't think the message to students was extremely well taken, that they had to wear their masks at their seats. That's something that we've harped on and want to see improved upon for next game. We want to have game, so on and so forth. We want to have the rest of the season. But I do think that's something we can all help, is spreading that message of, yes, you can be there with your family units and pull with your family units, but keep your masks on at your seats. They're going to try and help that messaging too. I know last meeting, the provost touched on graduation too, and all signs are looking good for some in-person component for that. But I also know that the messaging isn't quite there yet. So we're pushing to see if those things can come out, at least to share with students, here's where we are now as the university's thinking through it. Because I think I have heard from a lot of students that graduated in May or maybe August, et cetera, that feel as though they've moved on and that they almost forgot about them. So if you have concerns you're hearing about that from students, or if you yourself have concerns about graduation, other aspects, please let me know. Obviously, there's a lot that the university is trying to communicate, but we want to make sure they're harping on what students want to hear. So with that, I don't know if midterms are over for y'all. Thankfully, they are for me. I'll say good luck on midterms. I will say please continue to reach out if you want to call directly. I'd love to sit down with more of you as the semester goes on. And then with that, I'm open to questions.
Are there any questions for SVP Mendoza?
If there's no questions, Zach, can you ask me a question? I forgot one thing, and it's Chair Teague's point he asked me last meeting.
Yes, we yield to a question from the chair.
From me?
From the chair. Will you yield to a question from me?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yes. Okay,
I'm so
perfect. Just
sorry.
trying to get the procedure stuff out of the way there.
I should know this.
So my question to you is just question. Go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to say, I ran into Senator Trosclair recently. He asked a question about drunk driving and how that was being handled with football. Got to address that with him. But Chair Teague asked last meeting, how was tailgating being looked at game after game, given that it's a game time decision? And so Chair Teague, I asked, and the gist I got was pretty much the same as they're gauging midnight yell and football specifically. So they want to see if there's a spike attributed to the game itself. And that includes spikes in hospitalization rates, overall spikes of on-campus populations as well. And so the gist is it's the same thing and metrics they're using already, but it will continue to be a game time decision. But I think the good thing was if you see that, 56%, I think, of the population inside Kyle Field was students. So hopefully that means less people traveled from outside of this community to kind of facilitate that spread. But I want to make sure I answered your point, Chair Teague. Happy to follow up if anything else is needed. Thank you, Speaker McHugh.
Of course, Chair Teague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Student Body President Mendoza. My question is, so essentially we're going to see a potentially a 2-week or 14 or 15-day lag in decision. So we wait 14 days, look at the spikes or lack thereof, and then make that decision.
I think so. And we normally wouldn't have that benefit, Chair Teague, but given that our game is 2 weeks away, I think that's right. And I know that this past time that they announced no tailgating, it leaked, I believe, on a Tuesday before a Saturday game. It was supposed to go out on Thursday. So I think that's a proper trajectory. It's probably that timeline, yes.
Are there any other questions for SBP Mendoza? Seeing none. Eric, thanks for dealing with those technical difficulties and still coming through and getting that report to us. We'll now go to Chief Justice McIntosh.
All right. Howdy, Senate. I'll keep this short and sweet as everyone worked so hard tonight to wrap everything up in a timely fashion. So I'd like to first thank the Finance Committee for getting that budget done. I know that took so much effort from everyone, and it's very important for all of SGA as a whole. So J Court thanks you for all that hard work. Also, Eric, so many of those initiatives that you talked about sounded amazing. That's awesome to hear. As far as J Court goes, more of the same. We've been preparing our new judicial advocates as it is elections this week in case we do get anything. So if anyone has any issues, we're here and we're ready to roll if anything does present itself. So with that, I'm open to questions.
Are there any questions for Chief Justice McIntosh? Seeing none, thank you, Chief Justice McIntosh. And with that, I will give the chair to Pro Tempore Spur and go ahead and give my report here. I am going to keep this as short and sweet as possible. As Eric said earlier, we are all in different rooms in Coldus to make sure we're socially distancing so that we can be here to sign the finance bill here. It's officially signed by both Eric and I, all of the pages. Don't ask me how long it took me to sign my name on all the pages, but it is done. So with that, we'll get that to the desk of Amy Lloyd, and we will be able to hopefully get that money to committees by tomorrow. And so that'll be very exciting for them. Just a couple of very quick updates for me. I've been talking to SFAB, and they're going to be presenting to Senate on the 28th, so be ready for that. We're going to be getting our new senators here very soon, as a couple of people have mentioned with elections. So we'll be swearing them in on October 14th. Top staff and I will be taking them through a mini development day to kind of catch them up and get them to speed before they come in here. Other than that, anything that's big, I'll remember to put in the Slack. I do want to say thank you for bearing with us. I know there is some frustration with dress code and having to be online still and things like that, especially as we're experimenting with different things across campus like football and bringing people back in person. So please continue to be patient as that happens, and it's done in a very safe way, in the safest way possible. And so as we're continuing to live in this virtual world and do Senate in this virtual world, thank you so much for the participation that you all have. I think it shows a lot as far as what your commitment is to your constituents, and I really do applaud that. And I think it'll be a great example for the new senators to walk into and see all of you. And so that'll be fantastic. With that, that's all I do have. So I will now be open for questions. And I think Speaker Pro Tempore Spur, there she is. All right.
Howdy, Senate. Speaker Pro Tempore Spur. Sorry, we are getting logistics figured out for the finance bill. Whoop, money is great. It is 9:59. I'm shocked. 9:59. Attendance.
So Pro Tempore Spur, I do believe you are now handling questions for the exec report.
For the what?
For my exec report.
Oh, I apologize. I got ahead of myself. Is there any questions for the speaker? Chair Teague.
Thank you, Pro Tempore Spur. Mr. Speaker, Chair Teague, Finance. Is there a light at the end of the tunnel for in-person Senate meetings? Should we hold out hope that that will happen soon, or should we give up?
I don't think you should ever get that. I think hope is something that is core to who we are as Aggies and core to what makes us humans and able to continue and to thrive even in the midst of a pandemic. And so I think we should always have hope. As far as having in-person Senate meetings, we're doing all we can to stay on top of the latest guidelines and what's safe and what's not safe. So the second that it's safe, you can trust us that we'll get us back into that room in whatever means we can, in whatever safe capacity there is. The likelihood right now is that we'll be looking at spring before we have anything close to a full rollout. But we are doing our best to watch all of the guidelines as they get updated and see what we can do. But always have hope. Always have hope.
Do I see any other questions for the speaker? Seeing none.
All right, I'll take the chair back, and then I'm going to hand it off to Pro Tempore Spur for a period of closing roll call.
Howdy. Now we get to close out for roll call. Sorry, I got excited and ahead of myself that we were having the end of the meeting, but it is now open. It is 10:01, and that will be open until 10:10 for y'all to go ahead and fill out. Other than that, good luck on midterms. Stay healthy, wear your masks, and have a good rest of your week.
And so with that, after you have filled that out, this meeting is adjourned and you are welcome to leave.